Hey, and welcome back to part 2 of this series where I'm bringing you back some gold nuggets from all of my past interviews in this series. If you missed last week's video, we went through episodes 1 to 25 and I gave you a gold nugget from each of those. And today I'm going to go 26 to 50. So let's jump right in and check out all of these gold nuggets.
So I actually did a style shoot before I even launched my company, and the whole goal was, again, to establish a brand, but also to meet a bunch of vendors and to tell them, like, hey, this is what it's like working with me. This is my skill set and what I'm able to do. If you ever feel like this is a great fit, maybe you think of me. And I ended up getting, I think, 5 or 6 weddings directly because, like, right away because of that style shoot, just because of working with those vendors. They walked away saying, you know, Cait was professional. She had really good design style. We enjoyed working with her and we think she'd be a good fit for our couple that we're working with. So we're going to recommend that they reach out to her. So
failing and making mistakes is totally part of the process. And I truly believe that failing is is a necessary key ingredient in building out your life and in building out success, again, whatever success is to you, and in building out your business. It would be like trying to make a cake and forgetting to put in flour. If you're making a gluten-free cake, then I'm not sure like what you would use as a substitute of flour. But the idea being that like failing and making mistakes is such a key ingredient to your overall success that if you try your hardest to avoid failing and to avoid making mistakes, then you're literally avoiding succeeding, because you cannot grow without learning. And learning, we learn the best and the most through trial and error. And even,
if price is the reason that people aren't booking you, if style is the reason that people aren't booking you, et cetera, that just means they're not your clients. It's not personal. It's not offensive. It doesn't upset me, but I want to decrease the amount of time I'm spending creating quotes for them, emailing back and forth with them, et cetera. So I want to decrease the number of those leads that are coming in. So, when I go through this and I did these last 10 and was like, okay, I 6 of them didn't book, most of which were on price. Maybe I can do something better to qualify them up front on price. So maybe I can put something on my website that is more obvious, that talks about general price ranges for my products. Maybe I could create a pricing guide and make that downloadable on my website. Maybe I could, in that email where I follow up with more information, I could, mention my average price range and things like that. So, so no matter what your reason is for not booking them, it's not your fault. It's not a bad thing that people aren't booking you. That just means they're not your clients. But you kind of do want to work on decreasing the number of those people that are coming in so that you're not wasting time and they're not wasting time either.
When I embellish my letters, it always has a purpose. I don't just embellish my letters for the sake of embellishing. To me, it always depends on the composition, what the composition calls for, what is the theme, what is the goal for that entire composition. And with that, I think of the different embellishments like something that will, make it look more cohesive and it goes well together, not just because it's aesthetically pleasing, but it's also serving its purpose.
The importance of finding out a keyword that's way more focused and not so general. So if I'm trying to rank for the term calligraphy, I'm competing against an entire world of calligraphers, people who've had websites since the first day they could possibly get a website, who've been doing calligraphy for 25 or 30 years, and they've already got tons of content on their site. Like, the age of a domain matters a lot for SEO. So am I going to win as calligraphy being my keyword? Not really. So something I really tend to focus on is ranking for Toronto calligrapher.
I do like these tube paints because they're wet right out of the tube, but if you have extra on your palette, you can let them dry on your palette and re-wet them later. So that's the exact same thing as those dried palette paints. They're basically dried paint that comes in a puck that you add water to. So the only thing that you'd have to do is swirl around your brush on the palette a little bit more to get the pigment, enough pigment on your brush. So it takes a little bit more effort to get a deeper color, I find, just because you really just have to swirl in the water and re-wet it before you can apply, where this is very, very saturated out of the tube.
You can always switch platforms. Always. I mean, like, depending on your content, it might be a big pain in the butt, but like, you can always do it. If you start with Squarespace now and in, I don't know, 4 months, you're like, you know what? I'm really needing those WordPress functionality. Or you know what? I really want to focus on selling things online. Switch platforms. You are not like glued into one. So, I mean, I know that like this whole website platform thing can be super overwhelming, but if it makes you feel better, you're never like stuck in concrete with whichever solution that you choose.
Typically, I'll find them. So I'll offer like hand lettering for envelopes, and if they decide to go for it, then yeah, I will call on some of my calligraphy friends and have them outsource or have them do it. So I then, with that in mind, I know I have to order a lot more envelopes because there's just in case, you know, there's any mistakes. Usually it's like 15% that most of them ask for. A little, yeah, they need to have at least 15 extra if you're doing 100 kind of thing.
And fixing mistakes. When we're talking about murals specifically, say you made a huge mistake on you're painting a brick wall or something with actual indoor wall paint. How the heck do you fix that?
So there's a couple ways. One is to sand it off, but actually it's usually not too hard. So like if I've got a base coat of paint and it's blue and I'm painting white letters on it and I spill white, all you need is that base coat of blue, just cover it up. It's actually really easy. Like, you know, sometimes people, as long as it's not chunky, like if like you spilled a chunky thing and it's off the wall, then you need to sand it off or scrape it off somehow. But if you got your base coat, you're pretty much set.
I would be curious though to see how you're presenting your quotes. You know, are you just saying it's going to be $150, or are you kind of walking them through your process in coming to that price? You know, like I would recommend in that example that you actually spell out, okay, my rate for setting up the design for your seating chart is $50. And my rate per name is $1 in this particular style. Like really spell it out. Don't get into your hourly rate. They don't need to know that, but what you need to do is educate them. Give them some indication about the time that it's going to take you and the effort. And, you know, sometimes you want to go a little, go the extra mile and describe, you know, if we're going to go with this style over, you know, cursive instead of block letters, or maybe the size of the wedding chart has something to do with your pricing. Like really go overboard in describing what you're offering for that price.
Yeah.
And
I think when it comes to social media, you should post a product photo. You should post a few product photos in a row, but then I feel like every third or fourth photo should either be like a personal photo, or at least the caption, the copy should be personal of some sort.
Something real, yeah.
Yes, you need to be sharing more stuff. You're just not like, here's a product, buy my stuff. Right? Like no one feels a connection to that.
Yeah, that's it. And like really kind of looking at like, okay, so how can I improve those things that I don't like the look of, and that I know that there's got to be a way to make that better. And then looking at things that you're maybe do naturally, like maybe your letters are all really, really close together, or maybe they're all really, really far apart, and thinking of like, okay, how can I turn that into an element of my style? So like maybe you just have like a really elongated, like very like wispy long style then if your letters are all really naturally far. So it's kind of like trying to figure out what's inherent and like positive and cool and can be like turned into something stylistic, and what is, you know,
a mistake.
Yeah.
Is instead of ruling all these lines, you can actually just put washi tape, like get really thin washi tape, put those as all the dividers, and then you get that really beautiful moment at the end when it's dry, and you can just peel it all off. Super satisfying.
But I've never shied away from reaching out to people and just being like, hey, I came across your work and I really like it, and maybe we can collaborate one day. Or I want to get into a lot more murals, and so I have reached out to muralists in the area being like, hey, if you have a project and you just need like an assistant, I'd love to come and learn. And to be honest, I've never gotten any responses from those people. And I understand that Ottawa is not a big place and not everybody has the community over competition mentality in mind. And that's their right. They don't need to be nice to me for no reason. But reaching out to people and being true about the intentions. And I straight up said, like, I want to learn from you because I want to, start doing these for myself. So don't be fake and don't try to weasel your way. Don't take advantage of people. But collaborations, yeah, just don't be shy.
The tip that I will recommend is a magic eraser. A lot of people that I've talked to, they'll use their board, they'll get frustrated because they will have written on it and then they can't change it. Welcome to our kitchen is permanently on their board, even if they've moved it to their office. So the magic eraser is great because it's meant to remove scuff marks from paint, and chalkboard paint is paint.
I find going on a platform that's not Instagram, Pinterest is my favorite. I find it's more personal. You can make boards that are hidden, so you're not making it for anybody else, and just the fact that you can pin things for yourself that inspire you without having the pressure of people seeing it, that will spark something in me. Like I know I have, well, I'm telling people now, but I have a board that's it's called drawing, and I just post things that I could potentially draw. So when I do get that spark to draw for myself again, I know that's there and I can go back and just see things that inspire me. I find that.
So the difference between gouache and watercolor is that gouache is just going to have this really opaque finish. I like it because the colors are going to be bold and vibrant, and it's really easy to layer and produce these beautiful florals.
We always recommend that you paint your first mural or first couple murals. Do it for free as a learning experience for either a nonprofit, a school, or just in your house, not for like a client that you can end up charging money for.
So if you know what you want to accomplish, then you can reverse engineer it and have small little steps each day. And my big focus, instead of feeling like you have to climb Mount Everest overnight, you can just hit one little milestone checkpoint as you go. And that's the same thing as doing one big thing each day. Or you don't have to feel so stressed out to eat the whole extra large pizza in one bite. Just take one bite and one slice at a time. I'm a pizza guy, so that might resonate. But yeah, I plan one thing each day, 1 to 3 things, and it's a successful day if I showed up and I knocked out one thing each day.
There's lots of different ways that you can clean your nibs. Some people, you can do soap and water, just kind of scrub with an old toothbrush, or you can even use your hands. I use a lazy method, and I just dip it into the ink and clean it, dip it and clean it, dip it and clean it, just like I'm doing now, until the ink sticks a little more fully.
Wavy edges, I'm going to add a thicker line. One thing that I've learned just from years of drawing is one way to make your drawings look a lot more realistic is actually the contrast. So having really white whites and really black blacks makes a photo just pop all that much more, make it a lot more interesting to look at. So even just adding this darker line doesn't really serve any other purpose other than adding a little bit more contrast between the different elements here. So you can see here now this is a much more central piece of the flower that sort of stands on its own. And I'm going to do the same thing here against the edges of all of the individual petals. I'm going to go around this petal here. And I'm going to do it around every petal here on this flower.
And this one, I'm a left-handed calligrapher, and you can use both a straight or an oblique, but for me, I actually switched from a straight holder. Straight holders look more like this, where it just looks like your nib can just go right into the straight holder. The oblique holder actually helps you to stay on slant, which has been very helpful for me. And even as a lefty, I use a right oblique holder. I just turn my paper about 90 degrees to the right so that I don't, I don't run into smearing, and I can still see my letters really clearly.
So one of my tips that I like to do when I'm lettering on round surfaces, you saw with the watering can, I use erasers on the side, is floral foam. Floral foam is an awesome thing to have at all times. I buy like a whole bunch at like the dollar store. It's not expensive. You can find them in like floral shops and things like that too. The reason why floral foam is so great is because you can mold this to almost any shape just by pressing on it. So what I like to do is I like to use it, and then if I was lettering a lemon or an apple or anything, or ornaments during Christmas time, that one's like a really popular one, I would kind of just use it, and I would create like a little dip within the floral foam. So I just press it in. So as you can see.
But if you don't have that, you can either use washi tape or even use your actual laser level to mark the middle. So what I would do is kind of measure here. These are A7 plus envelopes, so they're a little bit bigger than 7.5 inches. So we're gonna be somewhere around 3 3/4. So I might put a little washi tape right here just to mark the middle, and sometimes I put it down at the bottom as well.
So when I ask people to make a straight line, I ask them to touch the top and the bottom line. And I've just made a mistake, so I've stopped and I'm going to start again. Because if you continue the mistake, then you're reinforcing in your mind that that mistake is okay.
And that's it for the 50 nuggets of wisdom from all of my past interviewees. I hope you enjoyed this, and I cannot wait to do 50 more in the future. Thanks for watching.